Hi, my name is James Peters, and I am a gay progressive millennial who's running for Congress. If the pandemic has taught us one thing, it's that there are issues that will impact all of us regardless of religious belief, political affiliation, or generation. The only way that we as the American people were going to be able to survive the plethora of crises that are bearing down on the Republic as the 21st century moves on is to come together as one American people. Not just Democrats, not just Republicans. And that's why I'm asking anyone who's watching this right now to join me in the fight for our future. I am running for Congress because America needs young, fresh leaders, leaders who are full of ideas on how to cross the aisle and work together to confront the worsening climate crisis, to find ways to expand services offered through Social Security and Medicare, and to fight to ensure that our democracy gets passed down to future generations. Our current political leadership has become entrenched with political tribalism, where they care more about scoring points against the other side by filing cheap lawsuits. I will go to Washington, D.C. with a fresh lens and a willingness to work with leaders on both sides. The advent of Donald Trump's presidency significantly widened the political polarization in the country. And that's something that I want to help to try to heal. Not only do I have vision to see past party colors and lines, I embody much of the diversity that's made our country the greatest experiment in self-governance in the history of the world. On my dad's side of the family, we are descendants of immigrants from Norway who came to this country through Ellis Island and settled here in Northern California. On that side, I am the first to not only go to college, but to go to graduate school. My father, he was a union worker, and my mother, she was always there for me and my brother. She was at every Little League game, every soccer game. She volunteered at all my school functions, and she was a chaperone for all of my school field trips, and I was a band kid, so there were a lot of those. But not only that, she worked very hard to be the breadwinner for our family when our American dream came crashing down. In 2001, my dad was 4 years into his career at United Airlines when 9/11 happened. That was followed by mass layoffs at United, which included my dad. And it was a very hard point of growing up watching your father lose his job through no fault of his own. And the only reason why our family was held together because my mom was able to work long hours and still attend my brother and I's functions, all while my dad, was looking for work. Things stabilized and 2008 happened. And we were back to square one right as I was about to go off to college. So that's why I'm running for Congress. I want to run for Congress to represent you, middle class and working class America. The people like me who grew up in families where your parents may have worked so hard. I want to represent you, the people who have worked so hard and through no fault of your own have had your entire world turned upside down on its head. I want to represent everyday working Americans who are fighting to move 2 steps forward just to get pushed 1 step back. I am running to fight for those Americans who work so hard and they never seem to get ahead. I'm not running to represent billionaires and corporations. I am running to represent you, the hardworking American middle class and working class that generate the billions in wealth that line the pockets of Elon Musk, of Mark Zuckerberg, of Jeff Bezos. I don't care about representing those people with the golden spoon in their mouth. They're going to be okay. I want to fight for you, America. I want to fight for the middle class and working class Americans. And I want us all to come together to fight for our future. And that's because I've seen these historic events over the last 20 years unfold, and I'm looking at what's coming down the road at us. Climate change, the domino effect of saddling multiple generations and over $1 trillion in student loan debt, the erosion of our democracy, the rise of a new Gilded Age at the expense of the erosion of workers' rights and unions, despite living in the most economically productive society in the history of the world. Now, I see the dangers that are being posed to the civil rights, reproductive rights, and LGBT rights by a conservative supermajority on the Supreme Court, and the unsustainability of the tax code that favors the ultra-rich in place of expanding Social Security and Medicare for all, and more for the American people. And you know what, though? We can take these problems on. Like Senator Warren, I have a plan. One of the most imminent pressing challenges that's facing us is the danger posed by the climate crisis. We need to pass a Green New Deal. We need to invest in as many green energy options as possible, geothermal, hydroelectric, wind power, solar power. We need to build a network of electric bullet trains to take the place of carbon emitting vehicles between destinations like San Francisco to Los Angeles or Portland to Seattle. We need to invest in improving the range and life of electric vehicles, and we need to invest in improving the range and the durability of electric airplanes. We need to do what we can to replenish balance to the carbon cycle. And now I'm speaking to you, California, specifically to my constituents in the 14th District. We really need to invest in cost-effective desalination. That is the only solution to the worst drought in 1,200 years of California's geological history. We need to work to make California's major seaports carbon neutral. And we need to invest in updating the electrical grid to prevent seasonal fires. Fighting for the future of the globe is tantamount because there is no Earth 2. The student loan crisis, that's a manufactured crisis. Investing in human capital should be a top priority for our government, not handing out trillion-dollar tax cuts to the ultra-rich. By expanding the universal public funding of education into all avenues of post-secondary education, so that just doesn't include college. It includes college, graduate school, trade school, community colleges, apprenticeships. By doing that, we are investing in America's most valuable and irreplaceable resource, the American people. Universal post-secondary education is an investment in the future economic success of America. Saddling multiple generations with student loan debt is slowly killing middle and working class America. It delays the retirement age for the parents of Gen X and Millennial students. Parents that just wanted to see their kids have the best shot that they could get. It's delaying their retirement when we should be investing in, the next generation of leaders. It delays Gen X and millennials. The student loan crisis delays Gen X and millennials from buying houses, starting new businesses, and starting new families because they have to worry about paying their student loans. And the high cost and long-term impact of high loan balances disproportionately impacts the racial wealth gap. It impacts the social mobility of all people who cannot pay to play. And ultimately, it's holding America as a whole back from our full, untapped human capital potential. We need to fight for the future of our economy, for the future competitiveness of the American economy in a globalized world, and most importantly, we need to fight to invest in the American people first, because it's not make America great again. It's make the American people great again. In addition to fighting to end the student loan crisis, we also need to fight to preserve our democratic institutions, our right to vote, and we need to further democratize the republic. As Thomas Jefferson said, we have a republic if we can keep it. The fight starts with expanding funding and placing a greater emphasis on the truthful teaching of civics and an honest teaching of American history in the classroom. If we cannot teach our young people to honor and cherish our democratic institutions, our republic is doomed to fail. We need to fight for universal voter registration for every American citizen as soon as they turn 18, or as soon as they nationalize. We need to pass a law allowing any citizen to cast a vote by mail. And we need to revamp the Voting Rights Act to ensure that there is no discrimination based on race at the ballot box. Finally, we need to fight for a more democratic system. That's right, a more democratic system for our republic. We need to pass a federal law to count electoral college votes proportionately. It is fundamentally undemocratic for one candidate to win all of a state's electoral votes in a 51% to 49% split. Why should one candidate get 100% of the votes? 51% of those votes should go to candidate A, 49% should go to candidate B. By shifting to a proportional delegation counting for the Electoral College, all of the voters in a state would matter regardless of the state's partisan lean, meaning to my Republican voters here in California's 14th Congressional District, even though California may be a heavily partisan Democratic state, your vote for president would still end up counting in terms of, the presidential candidate for the Republican Party would get an electoral vote from California. And vice versa, to the Democratic voters in a state like Wyoming, your vote would also count. Potentially, at least one electoral vote from Wyoming would go to the Democratic candidate. And I don't want to just stop at presidential elections. We also need to focus on Congress. I propose term limits for both houses, including a 9-term limit for the House of Representatives and a 3-term limit for the United States Senate. That gives incumbents in either chamber 18 full years to make a difference over 9 sessions of Congress. And to make elections more representative of the will of the American people, I call for multi-member districts and proportional representation for elections to the U.S. House of Representatives. And I call for ranked choice voting for the election of United States senators and for presidential candidates in both their primaries and their general elections. We need to fight to bring in new leadership that has the courage and the moral fortitude to do the hard work and to make real change to fight for the future of the American people. America is living through a second Gilded Age. A second Gilded Age where billionaires' wealth increased an estimated 62% over the pandemic, whilst American workers have seen stagnant wages juxtaposed against the highest inflation seen in 40 years. And that's eating away at their purchasing power, all while Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk take joyrides to space. We need to fix the tax code. And we need to pass laws to break up powerful companies that are gluttonous in their hoarding of wealth while paying their workers poverty wages. It's time to pass a national $15 minimum wage. And a minimum wage that's going to include wait staff and other workers who are currently paid below the federal minimum wage at $2.13 an hour. It's 21st century America. No worker should be getting paid $2.13 an hour. That $15 an hour national minimum wage needs to grow biannually tied to inflation and the consumer price index. Any American who works an honest day's work deserves an honest day pay. No, they don't deserve it. They've earned it. Nobody who works a full-time job should be living in poverty. Nobody who works a full-time job should have to take on a part-time job in addition just to put a roof over their head. We need to expand workers' rights to mirror other industrialized countries. To fight for the rights of all who work in America, I propose a 21st century Workers' Bill of Rights. The Workers' Bill of Rights will first off legislate the right for all workers to take up to 4 weeks a year in sick leave, 6 weeks a year in personal paid time off. And it will also create an 18-month paid family leave program for all workers. The Workers' Bill of Rights will also ensure that workers cannot be fired on the spot, and all companies must give employees 2 weeks' notice prior to firing them, unless in the situation the employee presents an imminent physical threat or a trade secret threat to the company's staff, premises, or proprietary secrets. I've worked as a contractor in the tech economy, and you are truly a second-class worker. They can end your contract on the spot for any reason under the sun, and that's not right. Other industrialized countries, or employers give you up to a 3-month notice in some cases before they can terminate your employment. That gives the worker enough time to find a new job. It's time we bring that to America. The Workers' Bill of Rights will also include legislation to empower employees, not the employer, to be able to make the decision if they choose to work from an office, a hybrid model, or from a permanent at-home basis, based on whether or not that same job was able to be performed either in a hybrid model or remotely during the 2 years of the pandemic. The Workers' Bill of Rights will also empower employees to unionize. Unions have decreased over the last 50 years in this country, and we need to reinforce our unions. It's our unions that gave us the original 5-day work week, 40-hour work week. And the Workers' Bill of Rights is going to improve on that too. In the Workers' Bill of Rights, I propose that we create a 36-hour, 4-day work week. The law will also prevent employers from docking off the salaries of current employees. Meaning, even though you'll only be working 4 days a week, 36 hours a week instead of 40, you'll still be paid your full salary. Finally, the Workers' Bill of Rights will also require all employers with over 100 employees to create a childcare space in the office for children 5 years and younger. America is far overdue on modernizing our work-life balance in the most productive and richest economy in the history of the world. It's time to prioritize the workers who create the billions in wealth enjoyed by the Jeff Bezoses, Mark Zuckerbergs, and Elon Musks of the world. By fighting for the future of the American worker, we can create a more just and more economically level playing field. My name is James Peters, like I said at the top. I am a gay millennial who's running for office to fight for a pragmatic and progressive solution to the challenges facing our country. I am a grassroots candidate, and I will not accept dark money. There is far too much at stake for our people, our democracy, and our economy, and our planet. We need action now from politicians ready to do the hard work. Will you join me in the fight for our future?